Hi, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Lewis. I wanted to do my own video for today's lesson just because there's a couple ways we can multiply decimals, and the book wants you to understand how to use a model for decimals. So if you take a look at the page that I've got open here, it says Mara has 4 garden plots, and each garden plot is 7/10 of an acre. That's the area. What is the total area of the garden plots? So we know we've got these 4 plots here, but each one is 7/10 of an acre. So we know if we were to shade one of these, this is 1/10, right? Because there's 10 of them in here. So if we take this box and divide it up into 10 bars, each one of these is 1/10. So if I was to show a garden plot that was 7/10, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I just shaded 7/10. Now, she's got 4 of these. Okay, so this is 7/10 right there. Now we're going to do another 7/10. Rather than skip over to this garden plot, I'm going to continue using the 3 that are left here in this 100th grid. So we've got 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I just shaded 7/10 more in red, right? That's another 7/10. Okay, that's 2. I've got 2 more to go. So I'm going to use orange. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's another 7/10. And the last one is actually going to be green, and that's going to be another 7/10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, we know that this, adding up these 4 plots at 7/10 each is the same as repeated addition, right? Adding 7, 7, 7, and 7 for 28. But it's also multiplying 4 times 7/10. So if I was to add these up, I know that this whole square represents a whole number of 1. And this one represents a whole number of 1, right? Because it's 10/10 out of 10/10. And then here I've got 8/10 shaded. I've got 2 that aren't shaded. So I know that that is 0.8 right there. So if I add up everything that I have shaded, I've got 1, 2, 2.8, or 2 holes and 8/10. So that is the total area of the garden plots. So that's how you do it using a model. But I also want to show you, if you weren't using a model, how you would multiply that. So we said that there are 4 garden plots, and each one is 7/10, right? So we know in the number 4, there is a decimal in this 4 to the right, right? It's invisible. We don't write it unless we need it. And then the decimal here, just keep in mind, is to the left of the 7. So technically, it has moved 1 place over, because normally it would be found right where that X is. So when we go to multiply these 2 numbers together, we've got 4 times 7 is 28, right? But now we have to place our decimal. And we're going to move the decimal in the number 28 as many places as we need to based on these 2 numbers up here. So the 4, the decimal didn't move at all. But in the 7/10, it moved 1 place to the right. So that means in our answer, we've got to take our normal spot for the decimal and move it, 1 place to the left, and move it 1 place to the left. So it's going to be right there, a big giant decimal. So your answer is 2.8. Now, that's the same answer as we got over here, 2.8. We just did it a little differently. We visually showed you how to do it. And then here, we're just multiplying it out. the reason why it's good to have the visual in the model, but this is really your shortcut for multiplying decimals. And we all know how to multiply with the standard algorithm. So it's going to be exactly the same thing, except when you're done, you have to place your decimal in your answer, and you can't forget to do that. So let's pretend I was multiplying 0.28 times 2, okay? So pretend that decimal's not there and just multiply this out as we normally would. So 2 times 8 is 16. Do the plus 1 right there. And then 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So we know our answer is 56, but wait, we have to put in our decimal point, and since it moved over 2 places in the 28, it has to move over 2 places in the 56. So your answer is 0.56, not 56. So that's multiplying a decimal times a whole number. Let's say we were multiplying a decimal times a decimal. Still the exact same thing. Let's say we were doing 0.21 times 0.6, a decimal times a decimal. So we've just pretend the decimals aren't there and multiply these two numbers out. 6 times 1 is 6, and 6 times 2 is 12. Now, I have to move my decimal place in the number 126. So normally it's right here, and we're going to move it over 3 spots. 1 for this and 2 for this. So you're going to have 0.126 as your final answer.
Hello.
Hey, hold on a sec.